And this is a pretty crappy camera angle news. I really do need to find my tripod. What's going on, y'all? TheBrandonBrownson here, and today we're doing a movie review for Monster Squad. I literally just got back from seeing this. A local theater was playing it, and I thought I would do a little review on it. 'Tis the season and all that. To give a quick synopsis of the movie, a group of kids who are in a monster club, a group of friends that discuss monsters, find out that monsters are real when Sean, the leader of the group, gets a hold of Van Helsing's diary. Count Dracula, who is joined by other classic Universal monsters like the Wolfman, Frankenstein, the creature from the Black Lagoon, and the Mummy, wants to get his hands on Van Helsing's diary. And the Monster Club becomes the Monster Squad, and they have to take down the bad guys and save the day. Now, there are going to be some spoilers in this review, so I want to let you know that now, but let's go into the actual review. Let's start off with some of the things that I really liked about the movie, because I did like this movie overall. I thought that the story was, at times, kind of goofy, but it was a lot of fun. I have to keep in mind this was a kid's movie. The story was a lot of fun. A group of kids trying to kill off all these Universal horror monsters was really cool, and the action was mostly on the kids. The adults really didn't do a whole lot. It was up to the kids to save the day, which I thought was kind of cool. It took me back to a nostalgic place, back when I thought, oh, kids are the best, adults can't do shit. The story did have a really good sense of humor, too. There were some parts that felt a little too campy, a little too hammy, but again, I have to keep in mind this was a children's movie that was made in the 1980s. The atmosphere was really, really creepy, which I appreciated. A lot of kids' movies these days that are trying to be scary don't really give off a creepy atmosphere. They just throw a few bats in there and it's good enough for them. No, this did a really good job of capturing that Universal horror style atmosphere with the caves and the creepy dungeons and the castles and the old abandoned houses and stuff like that. A lot of mist, shots in the full moon, bats. For some reason, an armadillo. There was an armadillo in the first 5 minutes of the movie. I don't get that, but other than that, incredible atmosphere. The music really helped set that off. There were a few scenes where the music was kind of when they were playing the pop music of the day, but again, 80s movie, what are you gonna do? Speaking of, this movie reeked of 1980s. I walked out of that theater and I still smell Aquanet. But I really like that. I'm not gonna say I'm a fan of the 80s, but I appreciate 80s cinema, and this was a really good example of that. So the atmosphere was good. The music, for the most part, was pretty solid. I liked the story. And the characters were really good, too. The main character, Sean, was a really strong leader type. I liked his character a lot. Patrick, who was like the second in command, was kind of but he did a good enough job. Horace, who was the cowardly fat kid, I got a huge kick out of his character. He provided some of the better laughs and my favorite line from the movie.
Wolfman's got nards!
Rudy, I think, was the tough kid's name. I loved his character. It was a little goofy, a little unrealistic, considering how the kid was like 13 and he was smoking cigarettes and drinking beer and stuff like that. But I liked his character. It was really campy, it was really hammy. But I got a huge fucking kick out of it. The whole time I was just sitting there in the theater thinking, I want to be that kid when I grow up. Phoebe, who is Sean's little sister, she was adorable throughout the entirety of the movie. I got a huge kick out of her. Provided a few good laughs, too, which I appreciated. The only, out of the kids anyway, the only character I thought was really lackluster was Eugene. He was just kind of there. Like, he wrote a letter to the army, and at the very end, the army shows up. I warned you guys about spoilers. And it felt like he was only really there for that scene, which could have easily been thrown on to Patrick or something like that. I felt like he was a major throwaway character. Sean's mom and dad were pretty good. Sean's dad was a really solid character of like that protective, strong father. Sean's mom, not so much. It felt like she was only there because if you had Sean's dad, you had to have Sean's mom too. I had some issues with her, but we'll get into that when I talk about some of the stuff that I didn't like in the movie. Now, the monsters were all pretty good. You had Dracula as, like, the leader of the monsters, the main bad guy of the film. And while it wasn't the best Dracula I've ever seen, for a kid's movie, for a movie like this, it wasn't too terribly bad. You had Frankenstein, who wound up turning on Dracula and them all and joining up with the kids. It was like a really heartwarming really heartwarming Frankenstein, I'm sorry. Which I appreciated. I got a huge kick out of Frankenstein. Mind you, before I go any further, all of the monsters looked absolutely incredible. There were some scenes where I felt that the Wolfman's face looked kind of goofy, but the monsters did look really fucking good throughout most of it. Speaking of the Wolfman, they did a really good job of switching back and forth between the human side of the Wolfman, who is desperate trying to find a way out of being the Wolfman. When he's introduced, he's desperately asking the police to lock him up so the wolf doesn't get out, and if it does get out, it's in a more contained area. But then the second he changed, it's a complete feral beast, royal ass whooper. I don't want to say too much about the Wolfman because there were some really good scenes involving him, and I feel like I've already spoiled some of the really, really good stuff. The creature from the Black Lagoon, I wish that they would have done more with him, because the creature from the Black Lagoon is probably my favorite Universal monster, but he looked really cool at least. The Mummy, more or less the same as the creature from the Black Lagoon. I wish that they'd had a little bit more for him, but it wasn't bad. You had the scary German guy who, decent character to provide exposition and kind of help the kids along. One issue I did have with that character was they kind of slapped on the fact that he was a Holocaust survivor. And I felt like that didn't really accomplish anything. It was, oh, okay, he survived the Holocaust. This doesn't really provide anything other than being able to say that this character survived the Holocaust. I felt like they could have completely cut that out of the movie, and it wouldn't have changed a damn thing. The bullies in the movie were kind of meh, but then again, they were only there to kind of further Horace as a character and introduce Rudy, so I wasn't expecting too much from him. The last role I'm going to talk about was Detective Rich Saper, who was Sean's dad's partner. I feel as if the only reason why he was in the movie was because it's a horror movie and a black guy has to die. Seriously, he was one of, like, 3 human characters that get killed, just to kind of further advance the if you're a black guy in a horror movie, you have to die trope. I wasn't a huge fan of his character. I felt like he was supposed to, like, provide some form of comic relief, I guess, but I just found him really hyper and annoying. And again, the whole black people dying in horror movies trope. It's just, they could have done without that character, and they could have done without that death, but whatever. On to some of the things that I didn't like. I covered the stuff with the characters already. The one big issue I had with the movie was they had a subplot going on between Sean's mom and Sean's dad, where Sean's mom kept on fighting with Sean's dad because he was at work so often, and they kind of teased that Sean's mom was about to leave. They really didn't wrap up that storyline, though. You know, at the end of the movie, you had, like, a big family hug when everyone realized that everything was okay, but it really didn't provide the type of closure on that storyline I would have liked. It wasn't like a huge thing, it was a subplot, but there were a couple scenes where Sean's mom and Sean's dad were fighting, and again, they very subtly suggested that Sean's mom was going to leave. It was really subtle because I had to have that pointed out to me when I was talking with my buddies in the car about it. I just feel like they could have wrapped that storyline up with a bit more of a bang. Another thing, speaking of bang, there was a lot of TNT in this movie. Not really a good thing, not really a bad thing. I just noticed that there were like at least 4 or 5 scenes that involved someone blowing something up with TNT. Which, you know, that was kind of a weird choice, but it means I got to see shit blow up, so I guess that's cool. So let's go into my final synopsis of Monster Squad. I loved the giant Monster Mash Universal Monster-thon that the movie provided. I got a kick out of the story. I loved the humor. The atmosphere was great. Some of the characters had things thrown in that really didn't need to be thrown in. A couple of the characters could have been cut completely without it affecting the plot whatsoever. And again, I wish that they would have done more with the Sean's mom and Sean's dad storyline. But overall, I did like this movie. I would suggest this movie. I am going to give it a solid 8 out of 10. This is something that I definitely want to go back and watch every Halloween. It was really fun. It was a perfect movie for this time of year. One of the big things with a lot of more modern Halloween movies is that it focuses entirely on intense gore to get its point across, or it's a imaginativeless, a movie lacking imagination for kids, there we go. But this did provide a really creepy atmosphere. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed this movie, and I think that you guys would enjoy this movie. But down there in the comments section, let me know if you have seen Monster Squad. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let's discuss it down there in the comments. While you're down there, go ahead and check out the description where I have all sorts of sexy links. Download my newest album 100% for free. Buy a t-shirt if you want. You don't have to, but I'd appreciate it. Check out all the other channels. Follow me on all the social media sites. But hey, most importantly, remember to like, comment, subscribe. The Brandon Brownson, signing out.